One. Hello, hello, and welcome, John Freeman, and thank you for everyone who's watching this recording. This is a recording for my group, sharing work-life flow tools and mindset. And what better tool and mindset for dealing with stress, which is something that's so important, something that's personally affected me in my life. So I'm really appreciative that John's come on here, the stress buster, to share with us the secret of running a stress-free business, which is so important, especially at this time. But I love hearing about people's life stories. And for me, it's all about the flow of life and how it has led you to what you do and why you're so passionate and why you want to help others. So please take us back to what has led you to being a stress buster.
I like to start my story in the end of January 1989.
Okay.
Before that was so horrible, I don't even want to talk about it.
Okay.
But what happened then was I discovered there was a difference between a positive attitude and a negative attitude. Up until that point, I had never heard of such a thing. I had no idea. I was 28 years old at this point.
Right.
Horrible to get to that age without knowing that. So obviously I'd started diving into all the self-help books and what have you. And I declared to the world, I'm going to be a success. This is it. Everything's changed. I'm brilliant. I'm a positive thinker. Everything's wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I said I wouldn't talk about it, but my dad died when I was 6. So I never had a positive influence in my life. So I kind of grew up feeling very, very unwanted. And my self-esteem was just really, really low. So no self-belief, no self-esteem, decades of rejection by girls. They all wanted to be my friend.
Okay.
And so by the time I discovered this, let's build a positive attitude, and started trying to do, I set about trying to become a success, whatever that was. But all I did, of course, was bang up against all that old stuff that was in me, So what I did was create the most stress. I was the most successful stress creator in the world. I was a success. I've only just realized it. I was really successful at creating stress for myself. And I just lived 3 decades on the edge of sanity. I started my own garden maintenance business. I just, at its worst, in the late 90s, I was working 10, 12-hour days, sometimes 14-hour days. I wouldn't stop for a break. I'd eat my lunch on the go. I'd drink on the go. If I was going away for the weekend, on the Friday lunchtime, I would start tidying up my van ready for the weekend away because I only had the one vehicle. Right. But I wouldn't stop the car to do that. I would continue driving between my jobs. So I would be tidying up my van and putting everything away whilst driving along. Whilst at the same time leaning out the window, shaking my fist and shouting and swearing at everybody. It was just the poor people that were in the car with me were just, it was horrendous for them. I lost friends because of it. I lost staff because of it. I was constantly losing my temper. I had to be the most efficient man in the world. Everything had to be done super quick. Even making a coffee had to be done exactly, precisely. I knew exactly how to do it as quick as possible, So anything that slowed me down or stopped me just caused me to freak out. And I would just completely and utterly lose my temper. I wasn't violent, but I was very loud, shouty, sweary all the time. So I'd do that 5 or 6 times a day. I would drive my van around. I'd scratch my legs until they bled, where I was just so tense. And my friends I had 2 really good friends, and they always used to say to me, John, you're really stressed. And I used to say, no, I'm not. I'm just efficient. I was like, no, I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed. And of course, eventually I realized that, John, you're just so stressed. You can't even think straight. And I couldn't cope with anything. But I just kept charging forward I don't know what, just trying to, I wasn't one of these crawl up in a ball and give up. I just kept charging. I've got to be a success. I've got to be a success.
Mm.
And all I did was just this vicious stress cycle that I talk about, where when you get in that, all you can do is create more stress for yourself because you're not thinking straight. You're all up here. You're
Mm.
just so detached from yourself.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible, horrible way to live. And I got interested in stress management and did a stress management counselor's course, which then led on to me doing a hypnotherapy course. I became a hypnotherapist.
Wow.
And still stressed, still messed up, but at least I was then given the tools to start working on myself
Yeah.
and healing that pain. And I guess I went on a quite an in-depth healing journey for about 5 years, really peeling away a lot of the layers. But it
Mm.
was, I remember meeting my wife, whatever, 16 years ago now, which was 5 years after I became a hypnotherapist. And so I've done all this work on myself. I'm all right. I'm all really well adjusted now. And it was only when I started, hanging out with her and living with her, I realized I was still really messed up. So obviously, the work it's a lifelong journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Um,
process, and
it
a
is.
lot of it's practice. A lot of people compare it to try and give a comparison to a muscle in the gym that you have to build up. I like to think of it as, again, it's a daily practice and a daily challenge.
It's an all day practice. And I talk a lot. When
Hmm.
I first discovered that thing, the first thing I did was write out my affirmations.
Yeah.
And just, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd pick them up and go, because I'm in a hurry, I've got to get it done quick. And I'd go to bed at night and actually they'd start making me feel better. And after about 3 weeks, I'd give up because I'm all right now. I feel
Yeah.
okay. And, I
Yeah.
wrote a book 5 years ago. And at the back of the
Ah.
book is a list of all the things I did. Then that was 2016. All the things I do on a daily basis that keep me positive.
Yeah.
And, I really enjoy telling people now that if I wrote that list now, and in fact I did on Facebook recently, it would be
Yeah.
twice as long. Because in those
Mm.
5 years, I've added more. Reading your affirmations twice a day is not enough to combat all the negativity we have inside us and we have to cope with in life.
Yeah.
So I talk all the time with all my clients, and every time I talk to people, I really talk about we are our habits. We are,
Mm.
if we fill our day with positive habits, every time we do a positive habit, we are that person that we want to be.
Yeah.
So if we do that over and over and over again, then over and over again, we are the person we want to be. And
Yeah.
I've been battling at this for so long, and I find myself in a place now where just good things keep happening to me. I'm surrounded by joy and happiness, and I'm just having so much fun. And
Mm.
it's making me very good at what I do as well, of course,
Yeah,
because you
and
can
also,
only ever.
I find challenges interesting now. I've had a recent one last night and today with a certain insurance that I needed to find out information about. And again, it was like kind of like, okay, how am I going to look at this differently? Because normally I get really frustrated because I want the answer. I want the answer that I want. Also, that's another thing to look at. And you get really frustrated. And now I can spot that spiral of saying, okay, wait a minute. I'm not going to get frustrated to the point where it's going to drive me into, again, that vicious cycle. And also seeing it, I try and see it a bit like a course in life, like when you're
Well, it is,
studying.
isn't it?
Yeah,
I,
when.
I, I teach people about the stress paradox. And I
Mm.
teach most people with all that stuff out there, when all that stuff stops giving me trouble, my stress will go away.
Yeah, and
And
it's
I
about
try and
looking at
teach
it
people
in a
it's
different
the other
way.
way around. When
Mm.
you get your stress levels down, all that stuff will disappear. Because
Yeah.
when we get stressed, we get tunnel vision. It's the first
Mm.
biological response so that we can look at the saber-toothed tiger and fight him or run away. And
Yeah.
what that does is make all our molehill problems seem like mountains just because we're so close to it. So
Yeah.
when we concentrate on our own stress levels, then the mountain, we can see round it, above it, all around it, and it becomes a molehill again. And just dealing with our own stress levels just enables us to swat our problems away like they're nothing, because most of them actually are nothing. But it's our stress that puts us up into our top head here, into our conscious mind, and everything's too much. We can't cope with it. It's
Mm,
all, and everything is stress. Every
yeah.
problem we have can be come down to brought down rather to a stress problem.
Right. Yeah.
Everything.
Do
You
you
tell
think
me
it's
any
also
problem.
as well being attached to an outcome, for example?
See, I like to simplify things, so it doesn't matter what
Mm,
you say. Like detach an outcome, well, it's stress. Because if
mm,
you weren't stressed, you wouldn't be attached to the outcome.
yeah.
So
I
again,
mean,
it comes to
yeah.
stress.
Yeah, it's interesting as well for me as well, because obviously I used to be a holiday rep, and the people that used to be fixated of exactly what they wanted to happen in the holiday, exactly the food that they wanted, exactly this that they wanted. And it is amazing to see the scale, and it is very heartbreaking when,
And you saying that really made me think, oh my God, that's what I was like.
yeah, it,
Back in the day when I was just describing you, if it wasn't exactly how I wanted it, it'd be boom, just
yeah,
massive explosion. If I arranged to meet someone, 2 minutes past eight meant 2 minutes past eight. And if you were 5 past 8, I'd be freaking out,
yeah, that's
because
interesting.
because when we feel like we have no control, then
Mm-hmm.
we try to control everything.
Yeah,
And it's all about what I teach all the time. We've got to come home to ourselves. We've got to learn to have faith in ourselves and trust ourselves and
yeah.
get connected to that intelligence. I keep talking about we're all up here, but
Mm-hmm.
the conscious mind doesn't know anything. The conscious mind's for choosing. The
Mm,
subconscious mind is for creating. So when I talk
mm,
about the subconscious mind, I'm not talking about a piece of our brain. I'm talking about the infinite intelligence
yeah,
that's inherent within every cell of our body.
yeah,
That intelligence that created us, that split an egg, that tells the cells where to go when they split and they grow, and all these different the blood and everything, the blood clots and the healing bones, and how we walk when without thinking, and how we lift up a cup of coffee without thinking how to do it, and directing the muscles how to do it. And
yeah.
that's that subconscious intelligence. It knows everything. We were
Mm,
born of stars,
mm,
exploding stars. We have the intelligence of the entire universe. And what happens is we get stressed and we come up here and we lose touch with all of that because we're too busy panicking. But if
yeah.
we stop and come home and dissipate the stress chemicals as a
Mm,
number one, because nothing else matters.
mm,
Why be stressed? Everything that we want to achieve in life, if it costs us stress, what's the point in it?
yeah. And
Because
exactly,
stress is
sometimes,
unhappiness.
yeah, you can't see as well how something that isn't what you want can actually be even better in an outcome.
Yeah. So if
Um,
we calm down, we can get in
yeah,
touch with that inner resource, that inner intelligence, that peace, that calm, that joy. And then we could start. I'm getting really, this is quite new for me, but I'm really getting into intuition now. And it's kind of
yes, so am
funny because
I.
I've always talked to people about making friends with their subconscious and talking
Mm,
to the subconscious, but I'm kind of linking that up with intuition now. So I'm asking questions and asking for help. And
yeah.
I asked last week. I asked my intuition to sort me out, provide me with some conversations. I'm so
Mm,
busy this week with people like yourself. I'm talking all over the place. The internet's going to get fed up with me this couple of weeks because all I'm doing, it provided what I asked for, and I'm
yeah,
starting to think this stuff's really cool. I can do more of this.
yeah.
And so we trusted. What I was lacking when I was a mess was faith. I had no
Mm,
faith in myself. I had no faith in a greater power. I
mm,
thought I had to do everything or it
mm-hmm.
wouldn't get done right. So, and that just makes you charge,
Yeah.
charge, charge. And now more and more often, I'm okay, let go. And I get coached as well. My coach is saying, hold space, John, hold space. You don't have to do everything. Give it a chance when you've
Yeah.
asked for it to come to you. So even
Mm,
now I'm learning to step back. And I tell you what, the more I step back, the better it gets,
yeah,
you
that's
know.
interesting.
And
And
I am nowhere
yeah,
near yet. as stepped back as I intend to be. I'm, work in progress. It's a lifelong
Yeah,
journey.
progress it. What about that little voice, our favorite voice? A lot of people call it, I don't know, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, yada yada. It's got lots of names.
I'm
I've
the
recently
world
called it
champion sabotager.
I've recently called it Fanny Fear.
Oh, funny fear, I love it.
Because I have a very big fear voice. Again, with my fear of driving, it tells me, oh, you're going to have a crash, cars are going to crash into you out of nowhere, or something's going to come out and you're going to have to swerve. Or in business, it can also be, again, just doing talking live or doing a video like this. Like your Fanny Fear could be like, oh, what if you say the wrong thing and everyone sees it?
I
What if
do
you
that every
say
day.
something can be, yeah. I think recently as well in the media, I'm not going to get too much into it, but again, there's been interviews where people have said things that have caused a lot of backlash, a lot of subjects, a lot of what's the word? A lot of worms coming out of cans or whatever you call it. And you
A
do have
lot
that
going on
fear
at the minute.
voice, yeah, and you have that part of your mind as well that sort of makes up things that could happen that then maybe don't happen.
So,
What's your
so,
take on that?
all right. So stress is, I've got an answer for everything. The stress is the flight or fight response.
Mm-hmm.
So we see danger, fraction of a second, we're ready to fight or run away.
Mm-hmm.
5 stress chemicals surging through our bloodstream in a fraction of a second, forcing us to have tunnel vision. We breathe up here, we get power to our muscles. What's really interesting is when that happens, we only have finite resources. So digestive system gets shut down,
Yeah.
immune system gets shut down.
Yeah, I found it
Order-
hard to talk when I've had panic
Yeah,
attacks. And that's another
because
thing as well. When people say, oh, why doesn't someone talk to me and tell me how they're feeling? And I was like, actually, when I was with panic attacks and had a lot of problems, I couldn't speak.
you
Yeah.
got other things on your mind at the time.
Yeah, your
So
body just wants to
yeah,
breathe.
so what you got going on there is it's a short-term solution. We're supposed to fight the tiger, kill it, and go and curl up in the cave and eat it and relax for the rest of our lives. But what we do instead, it's a brilliant technique. It's a brilliant resource that's been in animals and humans for millennia that have really protected us and looked after us. But it has a flaw. It has a really major flaw. We don't need a saber-toothed tiger to walk in the door to set it off. We have an even better thing going on inside us. We've got an imagination, and we can imagine a saber-toothed tiger and set off the flight or fight.
Yeah.
So 2 things are going on. First of all, we don't relax and calm down after we fight the tiger, but then we imagine another tiger and remember the tiger and set it off again and again and again and again. Panic attacks are too many years of doing that. And panic attacks, breakdown, overwhelm, burnout are the result of too many years of flight or flight,
Yeah.
without the calm in between. And actually, the more I do this, the more I realize we need to do that throughout the day. And what happens, people like me, people like you with your panic attacks, I did it for 30 years. You charge every day, morning, noon, and night, weekends. And when I stopped working, my mind didn't stop. I was still going. You do that, there's no respite from it. And the body's
Yeah.
not designed to do that all the time.
Mm.
So I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question that you asked. What was
Yeah.
remind me the
Well,
question?
I think it was quite a loaded question because obviously there was like that, as you said, your imagination comes up and brings up a tiger, brings up
Oh,
things that could happen that don't
the
happen.
negatives. Yeah.
And then you've got sort of as well that self-sabotage as well, which is similar because you put
It's
in your
imagining
mind,
the worst. It's
yeah,
imagining the worst.
yeah,
And then, but even deeper than that, expecting the worst and believing that we deserve the worst. So you
yeah,
got me, little boy, dad dies when he's 6, mum has to go out to work all the time, ends up lonely, doesn't know what to say about it, so hides it instead. and then develops a temper because he's not expressing himself, which makes people always upset with him. So everything he then does is reinforcing that belief of feeling unwanted. Then then he gets let down by some friends and they go away and let him down. That reinforces it again. And then he discovers girls, but he's too shy to go and talk to them. And the only way he can talk to them is to be their friend. And then by the time he's trusting enough to declare his undying love for them, they only want to be his friends, some more rejection. So in the end, you become a young man who believes you don't deserve any good things and you only deserve bad things. And then the habit of the stress. So I just deserve stress. And it's just the cycle, isn't it? And we just create it. And then we just get locked in negative thinking where we just expect everything to be awful. I lived like that for years, man. It's horrible.
And sometimes it is about saying, well, wait a minute, why don't I think about the times that it did go right? Why don't I think about the times where I did get a job, or the times that I did drive and a crash didn't happen? What about, the times where I
But can
did
we ever
meet someone
think of
who
them?
liked me?
Can we ever remember them?
It's the
It's
hard
really hard,
way.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there's one of them and it's buried somewhere down there amongst all this horribleness. I do a great thing. I haven't done it for ages. I'll have to do it again in my group. I get people to come live and talk for 1 minute positive things about themselves. And it is the most difficult thing for people to do, especially live on camera.
And in the
You know,
mirror.
and
I've
in the
heard
mirror.
of that as well,
I was
and
talking to
I've
someone
practiced
today.
that,
She
but it's not
said,
easy.
I tried that mirror thing you told me to do. She said it was really uncomfortable. I said, that's great. You're pushing your own buttons. Go and do it again and again and again until it's not uncomfortable anymore. It becomes normal. And the trouble is, I get people to decide on who they want to be. So, you have an old you and a new you. At the moment, your old you is very strong, very powerful, and very sneaky. And you have to, no matter what, just keep feeding the new you. Because if you keep feeding it, your subconscious comes on and thinks, hang on a minute. Okay, I get it. You want that. If you think of it from like the weight loss is always a really easy example. You got someone wants to lose weight. They'll do all the right things for 3 weeks. And then they'll stuff a great big cake in their mouth. And they know it's wrong, but they're going to do it anyway. And what happens at that's the point of power. And the subconscious says, I knew you were going to do that. That's why I haven't made any effort for you, because you want to stay the same. But if you can override that point of power with the help of a good coach, usually, and choose to feed the new you instead, then your subconscious at that point starts saying, oh, you want to change. Oh, all right, then I'll help you. And once you get the subconscious on board and helping you, the posh people call it congruence. But once you get, I call it making friends with your subconscious. Once you get that, subconscious is behind you, everything changes really quick after that.
Yeah, I like the idea of having, well, there's two different things. There's one with the wolves and there's one with the seeds, where there's two wolves, or you got two seeds. One's one's one way, one's the other, and you decide which one you want to feed or which one you want to water. If it's a seed.
Beginning, your job is to not let the old you hold you, because it's so powerful. And it's sneaky. So I start everybody off on a recording, and they have to do that twice a day. The power point of that is about 3 or 4 days in, when you don't want to listen to it anymore. And the old you starts saying, this isn't working. What's the point? I haven't got time today. Because it's really sneaky. Oh, I'm feeling better now. I'll skip it today.
Yeah.
And I'm really insistent. You need to do this every day, because every day you choose not to, because you're too busy or whatever, you're telling your subconscious, I'll stay the same as I am.
Right.
So every day you have to fight and struggle and find that 20 minutes and do it anyway, because you've decided this is the new me.
And that's
my recording is the best in the world, but the actual point of power is nothing to do with what's on it. It's your choice to make that time and listen to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's on it, because you've chosen, and it's all about implication with the subconscious. We've got to tell it what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about the choice of asking for help? Because that's quite a challenge as well when you're stressed. Whether you've got your own business, or even I've experienced this as an employee, but being sort of the only person in a department. I was the only admin in quite a few destinations that I was in. And it's that sort of, I need to show that I can do it all. I'm going to do it. If I ask for help, then it's going to seem like I can't cope with
I can't
that
cope.
position. Yeah.
It's really funny. I'm really enjoying this because it's like you've looked inside my head and you know all the perfect questions to ask me, because this is a really big deal for me at the moment, is the asking for help thing, because I was this big angry man. I can do it. I'm all right. I'm all right. And I remember I was even laying in bed this morning thinking, I remember the first time I did this when I was 7 or whatever, been to the dentist or something. I was in pain because they'd given me an injection. They were waiting for it to numb my mouth. And mum's like, come here, love. And I'm, no, get away. I'm all right. And,
Don't want to show you're weak.
That's how I ran my entire life. And of course I got stressed because I wouldn't let anybody help me. And I'll tell you what, for decades, I lay awake at night, crying myself to sleep, praying that someone would reach a hand out to me and help me. I mean, literally, I was still doing it 5-6 years ago, especially in business, more in business than personal, but really praying that somebody would reach out and help me. But at the same time, I'm walking around thinking I don't need any, or pretending I don't need any help, and pretending I'm strong and capable. And I tell people it takes exactly the same amount of energy to pretend you're strong as it is to actually put that effort into getting strong. And literally, really business wise, I started asking for help. This is 31 years, remember, struggling, trying to be a success, getting nowhere, been bankrupt, been broke. My wife and I, the year I wrote my book, the year after I wrote my book, my wife and I survived. We were living in Spain at the time on about 13,000 euros for the whole year.
Right.
It's like all I've known for most of my life was poverty. And it was like just this. At the beginning of this year, I started asking for help. And it's like I hadn't asked for any help. I was too embarrassed. I was ashamed that I needed help.
Yeah.
And, I talk all the time to, oh, for God's sake, ask for help. Especially, what I do, it doesn't even have to be me. There are just tons of really good coaches and therapists out there, really wholehearted people that all they want to do is help people like you and I were. There are so many people. I have people in my group, in other groups I belong to, that I've reached out a hand to. Some I've offered paid services, some I've offered to talk to for free. And the last person I did it didn't even reply to my message. And, people are so scared to ask for help. And it's, I didn't do it. I know what that fear is like. And, it's the big step. You take that step, everything else is easy after that. You put your hand up and say, I'm not coping, I need help. And I think, you talking about the corporate environment with that, Brené Brown talks a lot about shame and especially shame in the workplace. And, we need to have more conversations about that.
Definitely.
Don't we? Because, anybody should be able to put their hand up. And I think we're talking much more about mental health now.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we keep talking about it. It's so important because too many people are struggling, but they're struggling because they're ashamed of struggling. And I'll tell you, from someone who did it themselves, all that does is make it happen again. My real big development, my dropping off of my massive stress, my starting to be successful in business all began the day I decided, okay, I'm all right where I am. This is okay. I've not moved. I've moved that far in 30 years, but I'm happy. I'm all right. This is okay. I can accept myself. I can love myself, and I can start from here. What do I need to do first? Instead of charge, panic, panic, panic. I hate myself because I'm not a success.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
and oh, don't hate yourself. It's like it's bad. From a man who spent 90% of his life hating himself. Don't do it, man. Nobody's gonna. You can't turn it off like that. But you can make a decision like that. That
Mhm.
nothing's gonna stop me until I feel good.
Yeah.
And that's
And
what
it's
I
a
did. And
yeah, and it's a leap of faith to do it as well. Like I understand it's not easy and it's like, rah,
you
help.
just keep walking towards it every day, and you keep making that choice. Who do I want to be? And you get help, and you get support, and you get looked after by someone,
Mm,
and you make it happen for
yeah.
yourself. It's so important. You
Yeah.
don't have to suffer anymore. None of us.
Mm. And what about deciding what to say yes to and what to say no to? Because there can be as well a lot of things that you can do. A lot of things, again, in any work environment, or again, sometimes people with business as well, like they want so much to have the clients or to have the work. Sometimes as well, you want so much to have the work. And then if you have a lot of it, you're like, well, I can't say no to it because, I've wanted so much to have it. And
Yeah,
then that can be a little bit in a spiral of overwhelm and
yeah,
not having
yeah. It
enough
can be
hours
overwhelmed. Of
and
course
being
it is, because
stressed.
it's just all worry, isn't it? Again, first step, come back and deal with your stress levels.
Mm,
When our three children were at home and things started getting like that in the house, me and my wife would suddenly think, hang on a minute, we're really stressed. And we'd
mm,
go back and we would step back and deal with our stress levels and leave them to whatever was going on.
right.
And when we calmed down, they calmed down, you
Mm,
know? And everything I teach is take care of your stress levels first.
right.
Because if you keep trying to cope with that, worrying about that, taking on too much, if you're stressed, you won't function properly. You can't. You're not designed to. The stress
Mm,
response, the flight or fight, is designed to make you fight or run away. It can't do anything else. So you
yeah.
can't think straight. You can't plan straight. So come home, no matter how busy you are, take the time out,
Yeah.
choose who you want to be. I want to be calm. I want to be peaceful. Get those
Mm,
stress levels down, and then what happens is you can take a clear look at it,
yeah.
and you can start, and it's important to give yourself time. I was literally talking about this with a client just now, and you can't say I don't have time to give myself me time. You can't
Mm,
say that because you're feeding the old you. And if you do that, then all of that stuff will keep coming and doing that to you, and your subconscious will say, "Okay, I'll give you more of it," because you're choosing it. At some point, you have to look at that diary, and I've just made this client take out 30 minutes every day, me time. Those two words are really powerful.
mm,
And she's now blocked out 30 minutes every day, me time. And she's got to
brilliant.
now adjust the rest of her calendar around those times.
Yeah. And it's okay to say, well, I've got, it's funny because you want to say, oh, I've got an appointment at that time. You know what I mean? But
Brene
when really
Brown
you're
talks
going for a
about this as
walk,
well.
but that's okay if you're going for a walk
Yeah.
because that's as important as an appointment is.
Brene Brown shares her calendar online with certain people that help her in her life. And one of them, I
Mm,
think, a publicist or something. And she tells this story. She was on why don't you do it there? You do it there. And she's got this like white space that she blocked out. That's me time.
mm,
And this woman's like, you can do it there. You're not doing anything. And Brene Brown talks about you've got to be strong. Yeah, I am doing something. That's me time. That's me looking after and caring for me. And especially if you're an employer or a manager or a mum or a
mhm.
dad, you've got to show people how to do it. Because if you don't do it, you can't expect the people you influence to do it.
Yeah. And
So,
sometimes you can be quite surprised as well, again, as you said, what comes up and what sorts itself out, because sometimes you do take a step back and the problem is sorted out. And I think
yeah,
as well from an employer and an employee, sometimes if you allow your employees or whatever it is, to kind of say, right, I'm taking some time out, have a little think, maybe there's a solution, and sometimes that solution actually comes up and it's really
Well, it will
interesting.
do. You see, if you expect it
Yeah,
and you look for it, and what we do with this stress mind is look at the problem. And,
exactly.
the solutions are coming from here. The solutions are coming from our heart. And if we're
Yeah,
not connected with ourselves, we can't hear that. And what happens, this is so busy, we can't hear it. And because it's a
yes,
very quiet voice, it's a feeling, it's a nudge, it's that intuition thing. It's so quiet.
yeah,
We've got to get quiet, like my coach says, hold space for that
mm,
answer to come. And I've
yes,
literally, I've been really busy. I was talking earlier about how busy I am the last couple of weeks. I literally yesterday morning, I woke up, got in my calendar, and I've blocked out some time for myself over the
yeah,
next few weeks. I've still got stuff in there, but I've made it so that other people I send my calendar to can't book any appointments with me over the next couple of weeks because I
yeah,
needed to step back and have a rest.
mm,
See,
that's a good
getting
tool.
your stress levels down gives you vital seconds of consideration
Yeah,
before you act, so
yeah,
that you get the chance to consider and think about, what do I want out of this?
yes,
Because otherwise it's like, oh, panic, panic, panic. Oh, I need
mm,
the money, I need the money, I've got to do the time. But also, if we're running around the panic, I need the money, I need the money, what's that saying to our subconscious? What's that
exactly.
saying to the universe? What's that saying to our intuition? Instead, we sit back and we take a breath. And I know, I'm not saying this easy. I'm still practicing it. But we can step back, we can take a breath, and we can get in touch with ourselves, and we can say, right, I need a solution to this. I'm working too hard. And actually, I'm literally doing this. I'm in that process right now. I'm working too hard, far harder than the results I'm getting. I'm asking now, can you see what you can do to have more appropriate results with less work?
Yeah,
And I am trusting, and that was part of why I came into my diary yesterday and started clearing a few things out.
yeah,
And I've been very busy yesterday and today, yet at the same time, I've taken breaks between, I've stopped, I've come back home.
mm,
My latest affirmation is come home. And I keep
mm,
reminding myself, stop being out there, come home. Because all the
mm,
answers, everything is in here.
yeah. And that I've got as well, trust yourself and trust the process. I'm using that
Yeah,
quite a lot.
yeah. I got another one here.
Yeah,
Ask, trust, let go. I got one
yeah.
here. I tap them on my wall.
Yeah, I make a lot of posts out of them as well. So I think
Yeah,
people
me
that
too.
follow me see I've got
Yeah,
loads
me
of posts
too.
to
Me
them.
too.
You have as well. That's brilliant. So yeah, to summarize, so the secrets are really again to do with trust, to do with creating time in your diary for me time, not feeling guilty about it. Um,
Ask for help.
Ask for help, yes, and again, don't feel bad about asking for
And
help.
asking for
Ask.
help doesn't. It's not just, oh, I need help because I'm a mess.
Mm,
Can you help me lift these boxes? Can you help me do this work? Can you help me clear my desk? I've
yeah,
got too much work on today. Can you help me? Ask
yeah,
for help. We think it's wrong. And here's the thing: as human beings, we love to be asked for help. We
yes,
love to help people.
yeah,
Yet we hate to ask for help. So when we don't ask for help, we are robbing people of the opportunity to feel good.
yeah. Yeah, and I also found that domestically as well. A lot of times, I think me personally as well, when I was younger with my parents, for example, they used to be like, "Oh, you never make dinner," because they always used to make dinner, or and I found that as well personally as well, where my partner's been at home for instead of going like, I made a comment that I realized once where I was just like, "Oh, he just sits on the sofa," and he was like, "Well, wait a minute, I can clean up when you say clean up," and so that. So now again, like you say, you ask and you say, oh, how about we clean up tomorrow? Or I was watching
You
something
got it.
recently as well of Marie Forleo, where she was saying about, oh, why don't we put some music on and make a party to clean
That's,
up, and
yes, yes,
and
yeah.
things like that. And then you find that again, you can find the joy in that. And again, if you don't ask your partner or talk about it in a nice way, you can't
Nice
then
way.
accuse them of not doing anything.
I've been having this conversation today and yesterday, exactly this conversation. It actually got a little heated at one point. And, getting angry won't solve the problem.
Yeah,
And again, that stress talking, that stress acting, and
yeah,
you just nailed it there. You do it nicely and make it fun. Life is as fun as we choose to make it, but we
yeah,
must consciously make the choice. And you know what? My number one choice every day is fun,
yes, yeah.
because life without it is just terrible.
Yes, that's another very big important secret. Finding the fun and finding the joy,
Finding the
and
joy. We've
yes,
got to look for it, because otherwise you won't see it. And it is
yes,
everywhere.
yes,
And I remember when I started reading those books 31 odd years ago, and they were telling me that, and they were telling me how joyful life is, and I was so far away from that. And it's lovely, because now I'm like, oh my God, yeah, you guys were right. This is great fun.
yeah. Like you said, it takes a process, and I think again it takes a lot of people talking about it for you to realize, and again keep feeding that part of it. And that's why I love doing these things, and which why I love watching a lot of
Spreading the
positive
word.
interviews. Yeah, and I think that's important. And to keep flowing, keep sharing with people. And for me as well, the more that I learn, the more that I like to share as well. Have you
Yeah, of
found that
course.
as
Yeah.
well, that the
Oh,
more that
yeah.
you've,
Crikey, I'm a
yeah,
nightmare at the moment. I won't shut up. I'm everywhere. I'm all over the internet, like talking about this stuff. You could be happy too. This is so much fun, because
yeah,
I'm just so excited that I feel like this. I want to share it, and the only way I can make that awful life of mine worthwhile is to
mm,
help other people not do that. Because
yeah,
otherwise that was a hell of a bloody waste of a life.
yeah, that's a
You know,
really
you know,
important point as well.
misery, utter misery and loneliness from 7 till whatever 28, and then huge massive stress for 30 years after that, or whatever. 20,
Yeah.
28 odd years.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
a waste.
again like a quote that actually I've been saying quite a lot in my life, and it caused quite a debate in another page that somebody else actually put about everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I've said it before, and again, somebody actually put it on there, and it was amazing amount of people were like, well, what about wars, and what about these things, and I said, you know what, I went to quite don't want to say poor, but I had some friends in an area that I worked in as well. She didn't have a sink. She didn't have private toilet. It was shared against various people, and it was amazing how they found joy. I used to love going to see them, because again they used to dance, they used to laugh, and we had like they had like cockroaches everywhere, and I used to I sing a song where we found a song to sing
Dance
about
with
the
the cockroaches.
cockroaches. There's a Spanish song called La Cucaracha. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I
know
know.
it,
Yeah,
but
I
uh,
you know I love that.
yeah,
Because joy's, we find joy in here. It's not out there. We
yes.
have to work at it and look for it and
Yeah,
think.
and
It's
these
the
people
things we
are
think.
showing us. Yeah, and I feel like the reason that she's in that situation, but she's able to show someone how again you can find the
Yeah,
meaning of that situation. And I talk about as well with friends of mine that go through a hard time as well, and I'm like, well, make sure you journal it. Try if you can, see how one day you're gonna be on the other side of it, where you can help somebody in that situation that you're struggling right now. You can help somebody with that, because you know how it feels to be at that point.
empathy.
Yeah, And
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I'm very I did a skills test, and empathy was one of the things that really came up. And I think, again, understanding when people are angry at you as well, and that's not easy. Especially, like you said, with road rage as well.
Yeah.
People used to cut me up as well. I used to go absolutely crazy. And again, when people have arguments as well, I'm sort of somebody who can see two sides now, because you can sort of go, wait a minute, okay, what that person's saying you don't agree with, but you don't know where they come from, where their circumstances and
That's
what
right.
they've
You don't know
been
what's
through.
led to it. And
Yeah.
I tend to, again, I come back to everything is stress. If you're not stressed, you won't have an argument. You'll have a
Mm.
conversation.
Yeah, and if somebody's, coming at you, you can say, okay, wait a
It's
minute,
stress. It's
maybe
stress.
yeah, you can sort of see that, yeah,
Yeah. And
that's what the stress.
being calm and in control enables you to make that decision. I'm not going to go there because I'm not going to win this argument,
Yeah,
because this guy is controlled by the flight or fight right now.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm just going to back off and let you have this one. And we need to be right so much.
Mm,
And something I'm learning
that's a big
now
one.
in my later years is, you know what, John, you're often wrong, and it's stress releasing to admit you're wrong, to try
Mm,
and hold on to, I'm right, all right, that's what I did, and it doesn't work. It
yeah.
really doesn't work, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, as well. That happened to me again recently. I quickly put a comment on someone. They messaged me and they were like, I'm going to remove it because of this, that. And I was actually, well, I want to say that I'm really sorry. And, we perceived things differently. And it's not easy to do that.
It
But
hurts. It hurts when we're wrong. That first instance,
yeah.
oh, it's horrible, and you have to kind of process it for a bit. And
Yeah, and also I think agree to disagree. There's a lot of things going on at the moment, which again I'm not going to get too much into. But again,
it's a
there's a lot of
minefield out
different.
there at the moment.
There's a lot of different in opinions at the moment,
Yeah.
and sometimes I
Sensible
have to.
people are keeping their mouths shut for a minute.
Yeah, and I'm very much like, okay, if you want to know my opinion, I will say it, but
Yes.
I appreciate that people are going to have a different opinion based on their circumstances. So it's not about being right
Yeah.
or wrong. It's about
And it's
people have an
it's
opinion based on their
it's the
circumstances and how
anger
they
that comes
feel.
in. It's the anger that comes into it. It's the not
Yeah,
accepting that there are different opinions to
yeah,
you. And it's, as a man who only works with women, I keep poking my head up above the parapet to try and understand more and try to help more and try to bridge the gap between men and women. And
mm,
I get angry people at me. And it's like,
right,
well, if you're getting angry with the men who are trying to help, how are you going to change the
mm,
men that need to change?
yeah,
Anger
and
doesn't work. We've
yeah,
got to calm down, all of us. And again, comes back to stress. We've
yeah,
all got to bust our stress.
yeah,
And everybody else I know in my business is trying to teach people how to cope.
yeah.
And I don't do that, because I think if we teach people to cope, we're saying stress is just
Mm.
part of life and you've got to handle it the best you can.
Ah,
I don't do
that's
that. I don't
interesting.
like that. I don't do stress management. I do stress busting. Let's
Brilliant.
work together and go. You know,
Yes.
it's not for everybody. But if you want to get rid of your stress, overcome your overwhelm forever, permanently, then
Yeah.
it can be done. And
Yes.
actually, it's a hell of a lot easier than people think. It doesn't have to take you 31 years. And that
Yeah.
is that blessing that makes my life now worth living, because I've learned all that, and everyone else could benefit from that.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, and that's so good that you're giving back. And hopefully, if anyone's watching this, I'll be putting the details.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully, yeah, they'll contact you and really stress that bust. And it is interesting how stress that bust the
Yeah,
stress.
bust that stress. I thought, shall I tell her or shall I let it go?
But yeah, we're not perfect. We say the
No,
wrong
brilliant.
thing
Well done. We
sometimes.
got one in there.
But yeah, and it's amazing how that's linked, as you said, to so many issues, so many things that we face, and so many things, and why it's so important to do it, not just for yourself, but for everyone that, like you said, everyone that you come in contact, everyone that you shout something at that you don't mean, or
Yeah. And
um
the trouble is, every time I kind of lost my temper or behaved badly or snapped at people, it's you that suffers the worst because you feel terrible for it. And you can deny you do, but as you start to calm down and get in touch with yourself, you start to get in touch with that and realize, oh God, and it's
yeah,
horrible, it's embarrassing, it's shame. It's really massive shame. Every time you lose your temper, it's shame you feel. And the more
yeah,
shame you feel, the more likely you are to do it again.
yeah, and
At some
yeah,
point or other, you've got to put the brakes on the stress cycle. And
mm,
once you do that, everything else is easy.
yeah. And if you see someone as well in that situation, it's about, like, in the nicest possible way, guiding them into having help with somebody like yourself to guide
Gentlemen.
them. But yeah, you only deal with women that then, do you? So
I do.
if
I
there
only
was,
work with women. It's kind of, I only decided that about 5 or 6 years ago, but it was happening anyway. All my friends have always been women. I don't actually, I've got one male friend.
so what would you say if a man's stressed? How is it best they seek help?
I know somebody that can help them. Actually, I would push them on to
You can
somebody.
recommend people. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think yeah.
And I would talk to anybody, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's having a lot of patience as well. Like, for example, for me with my partner, it took a while, but he comes, for example, to yoga sometimes, and have faith that your partner. Don't label your partner as, oh, they would never do that, or they would never, because then you're
No,
causing, you know what I
no.
mean. I think that it is possible as well for men to seek these things and to
Men
help.
can feel joy too.
Yeah, and they can help.
Well, most of them seem to walk around fighting it as best they can,
Yeah,
but
but
they
they
can
they
do
can
it.
check, they can be open to it, even if it's
They
only a little
can.
bit.
They can. It's just baby steps. You start from where you are.
Yeah, and they can help with your stress if you ask them to help you in a nice way, and not say that nobody's helping you with stress and blaming other people.
Yeah.
I think, again, it
And
starts
and
from the
actually,
inside.
the suicide rates in men are just massive
Mm,
because they don't talk.
yeah.
There was a program last night. I think it was the One Show in England here, and they were talking about suicide. And there was a guy, and there his best friend committed suicide, and he was like, "I just can't believe he did that without talking to me." And
Mm,
they would work together most days. He was like, he thought he was his brother,
yeah.
and the guy didn't talk to his best friend about. He felt so bad that he went and killed himself. And
Mm,
men don't talk. They just
yeah.
bottle it up,
And
and it's
sometimes it is
awful.
up to you to kind of say, open it up if you can, in a way, saying, like, I'm doing these things, I'm looking into this, I've seen this interview that I think you might like, and I personally have struggled with X, Y, and Z, to kind of open up
It's
the
really
conversation.
interesting, actually. I've spent a lifetime, like, unprofessionally, like, I don't want anything to do with men. All my friends are women. And then professionally, I've got my women's group, and I don't, okay, I'm not working with men. They're too hard work. And really, recently, that is changing in me, and
Mm,
I'm becoming much more open to men now, and it's a strange.
mm,
It's really, I'm 60 years old now, and it's
mm.
like for the first of my life, I'm kind of like, yeah, all right, and
But yeah,
it's a really weird thing, but I'm
yeah.
also all this thing going on at the moment, and I'm having a lot of conversations about trying to bridge the gap because I have a very strong feminine side, my masculine side is very weak, and traditionally me and men haven't really got on. they've always thought I was a bit of a girl, and I always found them too guarded. So I kind of
Mm.
figure that, maybe I've got a role to play here where I can help the two sides understand each other,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Yeah.
find myself much more open to working with men. I'm not quite sure how that might pan out, but it's a really interesting thing going on inside me.
Yeah. Although, as you say as well, I think as well, helping the woman, it can rub off. And I think as well as a
Yeah,
woman, by you helping yourself, you can, and seeing things in a different way, you can help your partner, you can help your children, you can help your friends, you
you
can
know the
help people that you
favorite.
come in contact with in the street, because I have that as well. I come in contact
Yeah,
with the street. Oh, how are you? Oh, well,
yeah.
did you hear that this happened? Or did you hear
A
about so many
smile and a
numbers? La, da, da.
positive
And
attitude just affects everybody that you
yeah,
know.
it just
The
keeps
favorite
going.
people I work with is mums. I think
Ah,
mums are the pivotal point of a family. I think they hold all the power, and most of them have
ah,
no idea how powerful they are. And they're so
mm,
busy feeling victimized and feeling like a martyr and feeling like they have to do everything. And
yeah.
I've worked with some mums, and when I finish with them, they're standing in the middle of their house and they're conducting like an orchestra. And
That's brilliant.
they
Yeah,
are the master of their house. And half the time, nobody really realizes it. But they take charge in a calm, assertive
brilliant.
way from a wholehearted place.
Yeah,
And the children then react to them and become calmer. And
yes,
she leads by example. She
yeah,
shows them how to take me time and how to look after themselves. And then the husband starts to respect her because she sets her boundaries, and she demands respect.
yeah,
And it all begins inside. And I
yeah.
love taking, I don't know, for want of a better word, a mousy woman, and they I don't put anything in. I
Mm,
help it come out. She's already in there,
mm,
this powerful force of nature.
yeah,
And I love that. It's just the best fun
yeah.
ever
And as you
to
said,
watch that
they
transformation.
helps and they help everyone else. And if there's a man in their life as well,
Everybody
they
benefits,
change.
and they become a good influence on the man.
Yes, exactly.
You're not gonna change a man by getting angry with him. You're not gonna change a man by nagging him.
Yeah, or
All
by
you're gonna do
saying
is
that he
make him.
doesn't do anything if you don't
All you're
ask
gonna
him
do
to
is
do
make him
anything.
dig in
Yeah,
and fight you.
yeah,
You know, one of my favorite questions: what would love do? And men in the home need gentleness. I know that
mm,
I'm talking generally here, and there are exceptions, and I apologise if I'm hitting a sore note. But for the most part, if you're very gentle with them, you can influence them, and
yes,
they are much more influenceable than you think they are.
exactly. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So many good secrets there. I think we could talk all day, but
I know. I'd love to.
we'll have to stop the recording because it might be a bit too long for for Facebook. We'll see.
Oh
We'll
my
put it
God, I
on
can't believe how
there,
long we
and
can do. Split
the
it in
main.
half, do it over 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, but thank you so much.
No, no,
And
thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
yes, so many great secrets there. And hopefully this will help so many people, and so many
Fantastic.
people can see it. And if again people want to really speak to you in person, because I know this is very general and people have their own issues, people have their
Yeah,
own their own things that you need to, like you said, a layer of an onion. People have their own layers. And
yeah.
again, if people want a bit more sort of help from you, do
I'll
you
talk
do
to
one to
anybody
one and you do
anytime.
group help as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah, obviously it's all individual. I've just taken on a client this morning who's going to work with me one to one for 4 weeks. And
Yeah,
I've also got a 10-week program as well called the Spirited Woman.
yes,
And if you want to get on that, the next one starts on the 24th. It's a small group program. And
brilliant.
it's designed to take you from stressed all the way to discovering your amazingness, falling in love with yourself, setting
Yeah,
your soul on fire. It's just amazing.
yeah. So many
Come and
choices
talk to
out
me
there.
about it.
So many choices to suit every person on
Indeed,
getting help
yes,
with
there is.
this.
Yeah.
And it's so important, so important. Okay, thank
Thank you,
you so
lovely.
much. We'll leave it there and I'll end the recording. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. So.